How's it going, everyone? Give one more minute, see who all is going to join. So today we are building an anecdote organizer. Have you ever had a behavioral interview? And they ask you to tell like about a time when such and such happened. That would be an anecdote. That's what we're referring to. So this is basically like a flashcard sort of memorization tool. It helps you kind of think through and plan and practice giving those. Okay, great. Get the chat up here. So some of the things that we want to think through when we're building any sort of application, we want to think through the architecture. And don't make it complicated if it doesn't need to be complicated. In this case, it doesn't need to be complicated. The only data model that we're going to be working with is the concept of an anecdote. It's like the only thing here. The anecdote will be organized into the STAR method. So situation, task, action, and result. This is the STAR method. I also want it to be able to be reused for the SOAR method, which is basically the same thing. It's the slight twist that Facebook puts on it. Situation, obstacle instead of task, action, result. Pretty much the same, but basically the impact to me as an engineer is I'm going to have a T and an O. So I'm going to have SOTAR, the SOTAR method. These can all be represented as properties of ordinary JavaScript objects. So I can get away with having static JSON file data, and I don't need a database. I don't need an ORM. I don't even need a server at all. I can just statically read. And that's my intent. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, we'll stand up a lightweight Express server, but I'm going to try to not have a server at all. By the way, today's session is going to take about 45 minutes. And I will show you how to build a basic React application. This is not going to be complicated. How do you build a basic React application and deploy it to GitHub pages? So once we thought through the architecture, which is basically what we did right there, that architecture is going to inform our deployment process and our infrastructure requirements, right? So if I don't need a server, that kind of shows what options are available for me to deploy with. Usually my kind of two big go-to deployment options for build and deploy, one would be Vercel. I'll put them on screen real quick so you can see who I'm talking about. Big fan of this company. And they're free. You can have not really a full server, but Vercel functions, which is like serverless functions, so they can do quite a bit. And then the build process, build and deploy, is also free. So these, like Futurecaster for here, I get a public domain. And it's totally free. And Vercel will build it and deploy it. It's a really great tool. But I don't need a server, so even that's kind of on the complicated side. So I'm going to try to just use GitHub Pages. And this is going to be a really great reference for some of my students because I tell people, hey, GitHub Pages, you're going to need a GitHub account as a developer regardless because you need a portfolio. So GitHub Pages is like a go-to static portfolio tool. So you'll get to see how to do that today. Great, so we did a basic intro to the STAR and SOAR methods. We said, like, what is the framework we're going to use? I'm not sure if I made that clear. So basically the architecture is I don't need a server. I can just use static JSON file. I do want to use React. I do want to use TypeScript. When I'm thinking through the application, this might be a bit technical now, but stick with me, it'll make sense. Do I need Redux is an important question. Do I need a state management library? So the answer would be yes if I have sibling state communication. So if I have, like here on this GitHub page in front of us, there is this nav bar up at the top. Right under that, we could call this a sub-navigation area. And then under that, we could call that a main content area. So let's just think, and then they have a footer down there. Let's just think about these three high-level components: nav, subnav, main content area. And in this main content area, we can further see there's a left side and a right side. Here's a contributor name. What if I clicked on the contributor name and that triggered some logic on the left-hand side? Like here's R-H-U-L-S-E. Let's pronounce that Rulse. I have no idea. But we got Rulse on the right and Rulse on the left. What if I clicked over here and then the Rulse on the left changed color or something? Basically, the fact that I clicked on the right needed to be communicated to the left, okay? Or what if I clicked here and then it, for whatever reason, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but for whatever reason, it just started searching the guy's name. This nav bar would need to be aware that that click happened way over here. So that would be sibling component communication, because the left side of the screen does not surround or wrap or parent or own the right side of the screen. They're siblings. And same with this nav bar. You know, if you're a programmer, you may have seen some applications where from an information architecture point of view, the nav bar is the parent of the child, or the nav bar is the parent of the page. So that happens sometimes. But you know, if you're non-technical, that would be a weird assumption to make. You would consider them kind of siblings, right? And even in a React architecture, if this was hierarchical, it would be several levels deep, wouldn't it? So we'd have the nav, and then let's suppose it's hierarchical. We got a subnav, and then we got a page under that, and then we have the right side of the page, and then we have the contributors section. So that deep nesting, it's generally accepted for you to pass. This is getting into React world. It's generally accepted for you to pass properties to your child. It's not generally considered a good practice for you to pass props to your grandchild or your great-grandchild. So kind of depends who you talk to. That's a little more controversial, but many proponents of a state management library like Redux would say, if you have sibling data transfer requirements or grandchild or further, that's when you want a state management library. I don't think we're going to have that in my use case, so I don't think we need Redux or any other state manager. I think we can get away, and we can add it later if needed. It's actually not that hard, but all of these questions are helping us to pick out what starter are we going to use. So basically, I don't want to write this stuff from scratch. I want to look at my main libraries that I'm going to use, and most of these main libraries, many of the good ones, will have a starter application for you. So Redux has a starter. There's a TypeScript starter. There's just the basic create React app starter. If I had an ORM layer, there's like a Prisma starter. If I want to use Next.js, there's a Next starter. So I define all these options, and then I say, hey, what is my actual requirement? And let me pick the simplest option. And that's how I pick which starter I'm going to use. So we've established I don't want a server. Basically, I just want, and I am willing to accept client-side rendering. So basically my options at this point, and I do want React and I do want TypeScript, so my options at this point are client-side rendering and static application. So static application, the best practice in the React ecosystem would be to use Next.js, but that is, again, more complicated. Next is a framework on top of React, so if we want to keep it simple, we just go for React and we avoid that overhead of Next, even though Next is really cool. So all of this to say, we can just go with core React, I believe. And the core React starter would be create React app. Now, I do want TypeScript, and the other caveat is I do want to deploy to GitHub pages. So where do we go from there? We go to our friend Google. And so you're going to be reviewing this with me. Deploy create React app GitHub pages. And we're also going to search we're going to search React starter TypeScript. So basically the way this is going to work is I'm going to pick my starter. I'm going to create a repository. The repository already exists. Let me open up here it is, Starboi, if you'd like to go check it out, Vanderveer/Starboi. So I'm going to clone this repository to my local machine. I am going to use the starter, the skeleton project, and my first goal, this is the way I do development, is my first goal is to just get that puppy deployed as a starter with none of my stuff in there. Just get it deployed. Once I have it deployed, I'll make iterative small changes one by one, but it's going to be a pretty simple application. We're just going to have, I may or may not use material, I might just style it myself. We're just going to have, let's say, cards. Let me use this snippet tool. So this README area, you see how it has these rounded edges? These define the edges of a component. We call this component a card. And it sort of has a header and then a body of text. I'm really just going to have a card per anecdote. And maybe I'll make them accordions so they can like expand and collapse. But that's really the whole bit for the starter. So we're going to do that stuff. We're going to try to use it a bit as a user if we have time, but again, we're pushing the clock. And then we'll discuss some options for iterative enhancement. Let's just go ahead and discuss that, because it's just like 60 seconds and I might forget to do it later, so let's just knock it out. This minimum viable product version is just going to have these cards. I don't even think we're going to have accordions at first. So we could add accordions, and that would be nice. I could kind of collapse it and maybe get some better use of my real estate. And there could be other design improvements. Maybe by the time we're done with it, let's say I don't use material, and by the time we're done with it, an enhancement would be we do use material. Or I do use material, and by the time we're done with it, I could incorporate some icons or some other, I think colors would be another thing here. If it's just all black and white, that could be rather boring. So there may be an opportunity to introduce colors, and then you can get into fun land where it's sort of like icing on the cake stuff. Like maybe I have a light mode and a dark mode is always a fun one, right? So design improvements. Import and export JSON files, as well as read and write a secret JSON file to my local file system. So the MVP is going to be like you can type it and save it, and it'll save it in memory. But that's not super useful. What's really useful is if I can have persistent storage, so I can actually like make it spit out a text file. I don't want all the overhead of a database and whatnot. So if I can just have it spit me out either a CSV or even a TXT or a .json, heaven forbid a .xml, some kind of physical file, upload and download, and when I upload it, it'll show it on the page. I think that would be a nice enhancement. Hopefully I think that's actually an essential feature, even though I don't know if I'll get that done on the stream tonight. But that is a pretty essential feature, I think. Yeah, and if you have other ideas, let me know. But that's basically some enhancements that are going to be available to us. Yeah, you could get wild and imagine other things, but I think those are kind of the higher utility ones. One is the introduction of a separate data model. So we have Anecdote today. Maybe I create an employer data model, and that employer would be able to say, hey, we know that this employer does star or soar. And then with Amazon, they have the leadership principles. So my approach right now is to use a super object that has all those properties available for any employer. But there is a little nicety of saying like, hey, we know this employer has a card that looks like this. So like you don't have like a bunch of extra white space if that employer doesn't have that requirement, right? Okay, let's dive in. So what does Google have for us? Adding TypeScript to create React app is great. Here's a React Webpack starter. TypeScript React starter from Microsoft. These are all great options. And LogRocket, I personally trust. And then we don't want React Native. That's slightly different from React, and it's more complicated, and we don't need it. Okay. NPX create React app. Love it. And then the template. TypeScript template. So create React app is the core, like basic thing that the actual React team maintains. And so this is going to be the real go-to, create React app. And it turns out they support TypeScript. So this is absolutely the go-to if we can get it to deploy to GitHub pages. Okay. Archived by its owner, that's not a good sign. We'll close it. TypeScript React Starter, maybe, but if this is Microsoft, or if it's like some LGM, I don't know who that is. Weekly download 0, we're going to close that. Okay. So React Webpack TypeScript Starter from VicPay. I don't know about VicPay over there. Here's the template. So here we're on create react app.dev. Let's see if they have GitHub pages on here. Look at that. Look at that. One of the things I love about the official React team, so the React ecosystem has so many libraries, and some of the libraries are not well documented, but React itself and create React app and like the core stuff. Yeah, Facebook open source. So this is part of the core team. The Facebook team is just really great. Okay. I lost my place. Let me do that search again. GitHub pages. Also, this like documentation widget that I'm looking at in front of me, I think this is like a documentation framework that's fairly common because Supabase does the same thing with their documentation. Right? Doesn't this look familiar? Search, light, dark, this thing. So I'm not sure what that is, but I think that's like a common framework. I guess I could just check their GitHub real quick. This is going off on a tangent. I just want to check the package JSON. Yep, still not sure. Meow, I don't know. Exica. It's probably in here somewhere. Okay. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like we can just do this. Add homepage to package JSON. Looks like it's officially supported by Create React App. So let's go ahead and make Create React App. I already have Node.js installed. I'm obviously using VS Code for the win. GitHub, we're going to clone yet another repository. This is the repository, so let's get the clone URL. And I'm going to right click and clone using tortoise git, but you could navigate to this folder using your like terminal and git clone it that way too. This is just kind of a cute little toy tortoise git that can save you a little bit of time in some cases. I do generally use the terminal though. It's not like a replacement for the terminal at all. Okay, so now this is cloned. Let's add the folder. Bam. Do you trust the authors of this folder? Yes, I do. Because they are me. Of course I know them. They are me. Oh no, I switched my whole workspace, which is not what I wanted to do. Let's go back. So we're just going to do it this way with this button. React Report Maker. Dude, no. VS Code is bugging on me. Oh, it's because, yeah, I had clicked this and then clicked that. So you see the blue area around the folder name in the top left? We're going to click over into the main VS Code area to get rid of that selection. And now come back. You did it again. You dog, you. So there's 3 states apparently. Here, if I click here, blue, click over here, you see it still has a light gray. It's still focused within its own context. That's kind of confusing VS Code, not gonna lie. So let me click in the bottom left area. Now it's has the entire thing selected with this blue outline. The collection of folders is selected as opposed to React Report Maker, the top folder. So now that I have the collection of folders selected, and it just does it again. So we're just not going to use that button. We're going to right click, add folder to workspace. VS Code, you killing me sometimes. Okay. Add the Starboi folder. Good, we're good. So here it is. And in the bottom, I have this terminal. This is really the only terminal you need. In the past, I would have recommended you get, I have this console emulator on Windows, or like, forget what it's called on Mac. iTerm on Mac. But you just don't need that stuff anymore because VS Code has gotten good enough that it's not necessary. So this is using git bash. CD to my GitHub folder, and so my workspace, I have Bitbucket and GitHub and like GitLab. So workspace, GitHub, and then all my GitHub stuff is right here. I'm going to CD into Starboi, ls, license readme, that's what I expect. The git ignore doesn't show up. We could ls.law if we want to see that. There's the git ignore. Dot files are hidden by default with ls. Cool. So now we want create React app. I already have Node installed. Here's my Node version 16. And so I want to npx as LogRocket recommends. LogRocket is Bay. Yeah, I actually don't think that I need to do like the two different lines. So I'm going to close LogRocket, even though love them. We're going to use the create React app official thingy, and I'll try. I'm gonna stick to yarn. We're gonna stick to yarn. So we'll grab this guy. Hopefully when I paste it, it doesn't run. Okay, cool. Because I don't want to call it my app. So I'm going to rename my app, and we're going to call this Starboi. Command failed. Because you don't like my fact that my username folder has a space in it. Oh, Windows is terrible, isn't it? Okay, so let's not use yarn. The yarn people are like, we don't care about Windows. All right, well, npx. New minor version available. That's cool. Could not determine executable to run. Do I not have npx available? I thought Node comes with npx, but I might need to install npx. Is that right? Might be related to 1834. They said they published a new version that resolves it. This is not defined. Let's see if this is defined. Yeah, so it appears to be empty, which is not a great sign. Opened a new issue. Okay. Run script OS. Closed March 25th. I don't know if I've gotten a new node since March 25th, so maybe I just need to reinstall the command line. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, so let's see if that's what I need to do. Run npm install something something npm to update. All right, let's do it. Maybe I don't need to reinstall Node. I can just do this. Could not no, didn't work. Okay. Gonna vim that file. So this is the error information. Maybe I used a wrong command. npx. No, it started working with the app with the name I don't want. Okay. So I guess there was just some kind of typo in there. I'm not sure. All right, let me delete. My app started to create. Let me delete that, and we'll call it Starboi once again. Okay, so it's working. I don't know. There was some typo, but I'm not sure what it was. Whatever. All right. Add TypeScript. We're getting TypeScript out of the box. They have adding bootstrap and they don't have adding material. That's a little bit savage. Ew, don't say jQuery to me. We're not going to do that. Okay. It's a lot of files, y'all. While that's installing, I'm going to go ahead and start. I don't know why it keeps opening up my top. Okay, I guess, yeah, I do. I'm going to start making a example data file of the anecdotes that I'm going to use. So I'm going to call this anecdotes.json. So this is going to be a JavaScript object that is an array. Yep. We might have to change this. I'm forgetting if the top level of a JSON file can be bracket notation for an array, but I think so. So we'll just do an array of 1 for now. We're going to do we're going to do name. This is like your anecdote name. The time Phoebe found a cat. Okay. Then we will do date. Let's do today's date minus 30 years because it was in the 90s. Oh, that would be 91. Let's do minus 25 years. Okay. August. I'm just going to do this as a string right now. August 14, 1996, whatever. This is like an employer story, right? It's so they're going to be like, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a coworker. The time Chandler, and Chandler is supposed to be like a data guy, right? The time Chandler found a data error. Let's make it a little spicier. I'm making this up at this point. Found a data error maliciously added by a coworker. Ooh, Chandler, that's spicy, man. Maliciously added by a coworker. Well, this is a conflict you had with this is a conflict you had with your coworker. How did you handle the situation? Conflict resolution. That's a big thing they'll check during these behavioral interviews. So that's the name of the anecdote, and this is the time that it happened. We'll have like miscellaneous notes, but I'll leave that empty for now. Date could, of course, be like a proper date string. And that is about it. So now it's just the SOTAR. So the situation, obstacle. It's hard to spell. It's an obstacle itself. Task. The obstacle is obstacle. Action. Result. And my understanding is result, they like to have like concrete numbers and business impact in there. So the situation is Chandler was working at IBM on a project related to measuring ocean depth. I'm making all this up. The obstacle. A coworker, like we already kind of said this, right? A coworker maliciously added incorrect data into an Excel file. They were using Excel, yeah. The task Chandler, and so this was like, task is like what is the part that you're responsible for here. So Chandler was responsible for consuming measurement data and supply chain cost info, then determining optimal spend on fishing nets. It seems like a really stupid idea. I don't know. On why would fishing nets be related to ocean depth? On scuba oxygen tanks. Because if you have to go really far down, you need more oxygen, I guess. On scuba gear and oxygen tanks. Yeah, this almost killed this almost killed a diver who was running low on oxygen. Okay, cool. We're getting carried away. All right, great. So that's completed. Action. Chandler worked with HR to report the issue with supply chain to correct the order quantity and maintained like he didn't like tell the coworker, but he was like still cordial to him and maintained professional relationship with coworker until resolution. Through resolution. Cool. So that was the action, and then the result was higher spend, but lives saved, right? Well, higher spend on scuba stuff, but lives saved, and ultimately prevented a possible 1.29 million in employee lawsuit damages. I don't think that's how you spell lawsuit. Lawsuit damages. Cool. Cool. All right, so we've got this JSON data. I did an npx install, I believe. I don't think I did a yarn install, did I? Yeah, I did an npx install. So even though it's telling me like yarn commands, but I don't think that's right. Let me try yarn start. Couldn't find a package JSON. Right, so I need the cd into Starboi. Maybe I can yarn start because this is in a different context technically because I changed folders. Bundles app into static files for production. Love that. So you may notice we created the anecdotes JSON. Okay, here we go. This is the Open up DevTools. This is the basic app. Sure it's taking a long time to load, isn't it? We'll come back in a second. You may have noticed I created the anecdote JSON as a sibling to Starboi. That's because Starboi was like in process, so I didn't want to disturb the folder. But we're going to move this JSON file. It needs to be considered a static file from the point of view of React. So I'm going to move it over here into the public folder. You know what? Let me hold off on that. Maybe what I can do is import it. Just directly import it to my component. All right, so this is cool. Edit. Yeah. Going to Control-C that, Control-Shift-P, Control-Shift-P, and we're going to say stick to Starboi. We're going to delete this, save to reload. So here's the save to reload string. We just searched across our files in this repository with Control-Shift-P. Hold on, Control-Shift-F. Sorry about that. Control-Shift-F, we looked for the string save to reload, exclude node modules. Very important. Only look in the Starboi subdirectory. Very important. Otherwise, it'll be a very slow search. So edit this and save to reload. Basically, if I edit that, it's going to like reload the page. Whoop-de-doo. I already have TSX. That is ballin'. What happens if I delete this? It seems to still work, so I'm really not sure that that's really not sure that that's needed. I'm going to put a to-do there. So VS Code is lightening that font, so it's telling me that I don't really need it. Another iterative enhancement we could do is add prettier. Do I have a prettier config out of the box? So I don't see a prettier config out of the box, but as you can see, when I hit Control S, the single quotes turn to double quotes, which is kind of bad news. And that's because I have prettier format on save built into my VS Code, but I don't have a prettier config file. That's fair enough. That's easy enough to add. So what we're going to do here is stage everything except the anecdotes JSON. And we're going to call this feat init CRA, which is create React app. Okay. Push that up. Use a personal access token instead. I do have a personal access token. Maybe I need to use my command line then. Open up another bash in the Starboi repo. ls, we're here. Get status, just to make sure that everything is staged. Get log -1. Get log -1 showing what I just did. Great, so that is committed, but it is not pushed. So we're going to get push. Support for password authentication was removed. Yeah, I added a personal authentication token last time. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to push. That's fine. I'll get this. I'm going to handle that offline, but we'll just get this app working for now. So what I want to do now is try moving this anecdotes JSON into here. I would rather it be a separate component, public and source. So I don't see any components at all. So we are going to make a, oh, okay, I guess app is considered a component and is being dumped as a sibling of index. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have a component here. It's going to be called it really is the whole app page. So I would usually do a page here, but the whole app is one page. Let's see. I kind of want to put app into a folder. Yep, we're going to do that. So this app, we're going to leave it as app, and then we're going to have anecdote page. And it seems kind of ridiculous, and it is. The reason that we are doing this is just to respect convention. I'm going to downcase that. Yeah, so backend laterally, CRA, source, public. So under source, app is under source, features. Cool. So here we are going to call this. So there's like a few different ways to architect your folder structure. One is to do like a feature-oriented approach, and others like to do pages-oriented. I'm going to go pages, but there's only one page, which is why it seems kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to do it for the sake of the folder organization and respecting convention consistency across applications. So this will be pages. Pages is going to have a child called anecdote, anecdotes, and that would be like the anecdotes page. And then anecdotes we'll have an anecdotes page component. I actually want the this is going to be anecdotes page. Pages anecdotes page. Yeah, we're going to flip that around. Page anecdotes. Page anecdotes. And did I spell anecdotes correctly? The reason I have the word page first is so that when I sort them, all my pages come together. Anecdotes. Yeah, it looks like I did spell them correctly. Cool. And so this will be page anecdotes, anecdotes.tsx. So here we are. We're going to just copy the app to start with. This will be renamed page anecdotes. Okay. Don't need this, don't need this. I don't think I need that, but we're going to do it anyway. This we're going to change into export default const page anecdotes. Turn it into an arrow function. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of the default, so we're just going to export export const page anecdotes. Okay. Logo, there's no logo. Class name doesn't need to be app. So this is where we are going to try to import anecdotes.json. And so where are we going to put it? See, now we have a place to put it right here. Page anecdotes. If the import fails, we can move it over to public and treat it as a static file. The reason that's not my first preference is because that requires me to make a network request and introduces some latency that I don't necessarily want. So if I have it in here, if all goes well, the application will be built with it from the jump. So no requests, no additional requests needed. So that's better if it works. I'm just going to say import anecdotes from anecdotes. Hey Tina, any chance you want to order froyo?
What?
Want to order froyo? Or any other sort of sweets?
No, because I'm right on my macros.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Next 5 minutes.
Alright. Although if you want something for your sweets, think that yogurt that I just had actually is great.
Cool.
And it's 15 grams of protein. And 0 fat.
Awesome. So this is I'm not actually using anecdotes anywhere. Okay, so we export anecdotes and we want to bring it into the app. So what are we going to have here? We're going to have the big React spinner. I want to get rid of this text and get rid of this text. So this, save to reload, this will just say Starboi anecdote organizer. And that's more like a title. So index file, do we have an H1? You should only have one H1 per HTML page for accessibility reasons. So we'll do that. Starboi anecdote organizer. Great. This I think is too big. And I don't like the height of it. Min height, boom. I do like the min height. I just don't like the space above. Yeah, I like that more. App logo 20. App logo. Change this over to 20 on the app logo height. And then can I move the whole thing up? Yep. So we'll get rid of the justify content, and then I will add a margin top to rem. Padding top, sorry. Yep, so it's still gray. Just to give it a little space up there, make it feel even. Okay. Look for this hex. That's a relatively unique string that I can search for. There it is. Because I'm OCD, I'm going to alphabetically sort these for you. Just deal with it. A, B, C, D, E, F. And so now what I want to add is the LMNOP padding top to rem. Cool. Great, so I think this looks better, and let's go get rid of the learn react thing. We can change it to say learn the star method. Change it to say learn the star method. And let's link over to Amazon. I know a lot of people have discussion on star method, but this is mainly targeted at like Fang and like Big N. So let's actually use one. Learn the star method. Cool. So we're still going to have a link there. Learn the star method. Boom. Great. And then we'll just immediately start rendering white cards on that dark gray background. And we're not using material right now, but we could do that in the future. So we should be wrapping up here in the next 10 minutes. So now we have page anecdotes. So learn the star method, this is the header, and then immediately under the header, we're going to have page anecdotes. One thing I like about VS Code when using TypeScript, it can detect, so I can quick fix this, and it can import it for me. If I Control-Shift-P, I have TSI sort imports. Boom, it'll sort my components for me, love it. That plugin you can find here on the extensions. It looks like cubes, like Tetris or something icon. And then this one is called TypeScript sort sort. Where's my already installed? TypeScript import sorter is what it's called. Okay. And that will let you do the Control-Shift-P TSI sort imports. Great, so this is looking good. So basically I just have this twice now because I didn't edit the content yet, right? So edit source to reload, whatever. What we're gonna do here, this div. So we're gonna be using this same CSS convention that they're following. So we will make a new file, which is page anecdotes, anecdotes.css. And I'm going to have an anecdote card class. It's going to be background white. We'll do border radius like 1 rem. I might come back and change that. So it's going to give me the card. I'll do width. This will be a min width or a max width. I'll just leave it as a width, and we will do like 80%. And a height will be, say, a few hundred pixels. I'll turn it into rem, so roughly 16 pixels in a single rem. So 20, so 20 rem. We can come back and change that if we need to. Okay. We'll start by doing just one. So this will be an anecdote card. Anecdote card within the, oh, sorry, that's app TSX. We don't want to touch that. So let's close this guy. Okay, here we are. Page anecdotes has one anecdote card to begin with. We will add a single p tag and say hello world, just to make sure the class there is working relatively close to how we expect. So it's going down to the bottom. I don't like that. So I'm going to actually need this moved into the header. That's no good. So the header should be a child of a page. So this min height thing, that's going to have to change. Okay. Let's go back to our app file that we closed. So here's the whole app, and then here is the header. What we would like to do, this is probably an unnecessary abstraction, but I'm going to create it anyway because I don't want to pollute the app class. So I'm going to make a new class here. Oh no, this is the app. Yeah, so I'm actually going to move the header into my anecdote page. So different app architectures, perhaps they want the header to show up on every page. Yeah, we'll roll with that. So this page isn't really a page, it's like an inner page. It's like a content area. Nope, I don't like that. So yeah, so we're going to move this header into the page. Page anecdotes. I'd really rather not do that. So what can I do here? All right, page anecdotes isn't a real page. I'll accept that. It's actually a content area. It's not the whole page. If it was the whole page, then the header would be a child of it, but I don't want to do all that. So what we will do is probably edit the app class. Let's double check that app class. Oh, and here I can see my anecdotes array is coming through. So it seems like that's going to work. Wonderful, wonderful. So here's the body tag, root. App is the highest child of root. And app doesn't have any style on it right now. So we might be able to, I don't think we're going to pollute much if we just use that one. So this background color, boom, boom. So let's grab that background color and say, this is not the header's background color. This is the app's background color. So what we're going to say. Yep. And now it looks good. And now hello world is down there chilling. Hello, the anecdote card needs to have the white background. Okay, so I don't know what happened there. I thought that was working fine. What did I do? Here's the, oh, I don't think I ever imported the CSS file. I think that's the issue. So CSS file, just import it. It's interesting that the CSS file was imported before React. That's cool. So this will be page anecdotes. Okay. And we want to change the app so that the app has the background color. By the way, did I say background or background color? I want to do background color. Doesn't matter too much, but background is technically like multi-use, and background color is the more specific use. Cool, so that's looking pretty nifty. Let's see. Now my card is kind of cardish, but it's like janked up because it's over there. So let's center it. So we'll need an anecdote card container, and we'll make this into a lightweight flex grid. So class name equals, anecdote card section. And I can actually do better than div here. I can use section. Imagine that. Okay, cool. So now I have anecdote card section. We're going to say display flex, and we're going to align items, center, okay? And then the anecdote card should be a block because div by default is a block. And so when you have a block that's within a flex container, the aligned items will cause that immediate child block to move left, right, or center, however we specify. So that should be it. So that didn't catch. So what's the dealio? Here's anecdote card section. Flex is doing something. Maybe I screwed up. Yeah, I always get align items and justify content mixed up. Okay, so that works. Learn the star method, this app header. We're going to drop the min height there. Boom. That floats up. This min height will go now on the app. Boom. And now it's looking kind of closer to what we want, right? Great. B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, min height. Okay, that's kind of unexpected right there. Why did you do that? Oh, did I put on app logo? Oopsie, I put on app logo instead of app. Golly, pretty big difference there in there. Okay, at least that was a noticeable bug. Okay, great. So we got that, and what I want to do is drop this. I'll change the padding top to just padding, so the 2rem will apply above and below. So we'll go 2rem 0, so the left and right is 0, but the top and bottom, right? So we get a little bit of padding right there. And then this is the switch that I need to make still. And now that we're seeing it, it looks a little tall, doesn't it? So this will be justify content. Now that we're seeing that height, it looks a little tall. So let's, well, you know what? It's going to probably end up being about like that. It just says hello world today, but we have like 5. It could totally take up that much space. So we'll leave it. So this is a card. Now, let me go to my anecdotes and make 2 of them. This is not going to be like a really fun second one. We're just going to do lorem ipsum bacon eggs breakfast food. And this story literally happened a year later to the day. Notes is foobar. Chandler was working at IBM on a project related to measuring ocean salinity this time. Salinity. I don't care if that's how you spell. And then actually the same thing happened. Everything else is the same. Okay, so now we're importing 2 anecdotes, okay? So I want to see 2 cards, and then we'll wrap it up with that. So here, anecdotes is being imported properly. We tested that because it showed up in the console. So now I can safely check and say array.isArray just to make sure that there are anecdotes, even though in this case we know that there are. If somebody else loaded this on their system, they might not have those anecdotes. So is anecdotes an array? Yes. Otherwise, null, which is there's going to be no cards here. And we can actually do this at a higher level so that if there are no anecdotes, I don't even want the section to show up, right? So is anecdotes an array? If the answer is no, we're going to return null. If the answer is yes, we're going to return all that jazz. We can hit the save. So we're going to take the, and this is why JSX is cool and React is cool. We're kind of acting like this is HTML, but technically it's just JavaScript. So I can literally get that anecdotes, which it's already been parsed just by virtue of using the import keyword. It's already been parsed into a JavaScript object. And so I can, and it worked even though I used an array. So we know that it's an array. And furthermore, I'm testing whether it's an array. And if the answer is yes, I'm just going to straight up map it to JSX. Okay, so I'm going to say A for anecdote, and A is going to map to hello world. That little hello world card. And we can even separate this and say anecdote card. And technically this is going to map to an anecdote card. And we're not passing any props right now. We'll do that in 1 second. Okay, so now we've broken that component, so they're both kind of simple, right? So now I should have 2 cards, 1, 2. That's great. I want them to be on their own line though. So how do I do this with flex? It might just be the flex keyword. I'm not remembering. Flex force item to. I might need to turn it over from display row to column. Flex basis. Yep. Inserting this collapsed row between 2 flex items will make the flex item break. Okay. Yeah, it's basically a BR. Is that what we want though? That looks really cool. I'm going to try and just use the flex basis on the card and see if that makes the renderer believe that it's taking up the whole row. Each child should have a unique key. That's another great point. So we need to generate unique key, and that's going to be a function of an object, and we are just going to stringify the object. And we're assuming then that the content of every anecdote is distinct, and it should be. Let's give the type as, yeah, we could have our anecdote type here. Let's just do an anecdote type. Okay. Do I have a types file? Bum, 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 bum. React app and VDTS. Whoa. So sibling of pages, we can have types. What is it? Custom DTS. Typings. This is another project where I added type roots. Custom types. User TS. Okay. So we're going to copy this whole folder. Paste it here. Paste. I made a types folder. We're going to delete that. We're going to use the custom types folder. And we don't want user. We want anecdote. Anecdote. Okay. So we're going to export type anecdote. And what does an anecdote have? Let's go check that JSON file. It has this stuff, and they're all strings at the moment. And they're all required at the moment. In theory, like some of these could be optional or whatever. Okay, so now we export the anecdote type. I'm going to quickly check in just the anecdote type. Feed anecdote type. So this is a new feature. Okay. Imports. Cool. So now we have the anecdote type. Yeah, I'm not sure how to type those anecdotes. Here we can type it. Anecdotes to type, I will call it, and then we'll say sort those imports, and then we'll say const anecdotes as anecdote equals anecdotes to type. So literally just passing the type declaration to get that IntelliSense and the VS Code awareness. Cool. So now we're going to say generate unique key from an anecdote. Although really, I would like that to be a utility method that could be used in other contexts. But for now, we'll just say that it's always going to be an anecdote. So we'll make that O to an A. Okay, so we generate a unique key. And then here we're going to have to do anecdote. A for anecdote, and then this is going to be a function of anecdote. And then ABC, so key. So now we have a unique key. Whenever we loop, React needs to be able to uniquely identify each element, so it likes to have a key property. And by convention, we don't like to use the index. So key is going to be generate unique key from anecdote. Element implicitly has an any type. Nope, it should not. It should not. It should have an anecdote type. Anecdote. Shit, am I going to have a spelling problem here? Like that without the S. Anecdote. Anecdote. So you're anecdotes, so you should know that you're an anecdote. Yeah. So why do you think that you're an any? Okay, maybe it wants me to do this. Anecdote card props. Seems like a little bit of over-engineering here, but we'll go for it. So we'll make a new type. Parsing equals expected, okay? So now we have anecdote card props. So your props. Is that better? Okay, now you're happy. But I want to destructure it because it's convenient. All right, do we have everything working now? Now you know you're an anecdote. All right. That was unnecessarily difficult, but cool. Now we have an anecdote card that takes an anecdote. We have a unique key. And so each child in the list should have a unique key. So it's not complaining at the level of the div here. It's complaining, it seems, right here. You guys should have unique keys at this point. Let's actually check it out. The anecdote card does not have a key. Why is the key class failing? Why is the key not being generated? Let's use a debugger. So here is a key. So this is the key, and it is unique, but it already errored. I wonder if I just need to refresh the page. It's like leftovers. It already errored. Okay. So I'm going to cheat. We don't like to use the index, but I'm going to see if this fixes it. Just because I want to see if it's complaining at the level of anecdote card. Okay, so it didn't complain that time. So we're just going to move the key up a level. We're not going to use index. That was just for testing. Okay, anecdote. Yeah. Do I still have the debugger there? Let's drop the debugger. Okay. So now anecdote's not used. I know that's not great news. Now we have no complaint. Okay, so that's working. But they are not breaking to the next line. So let's do anecdote card section, and we will display direction, it's called. Flex direction is going to be column. So now we turn it like that. Great. Align items. Cool. Don't need justify content anymore. A, B, C, D. And now I want my cards to have some margin. One rim on either side for a total of 2 rims seems consistent with what we did with the above component. The heights, it's not as tall as I'd like. Cool. Yeah, so since we use flex basis, it turned it into flex. Good, good. Good, good. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so delete flex basis. It will no longer presume that it's flex, and let's return the width back to 80%. That 80% is arbitrary. I just like to have the border. So now I have 2 cards, and we'll just get that text showing, and that'll be it. Let me do a commit right now. So I'm going to close other tabs here, and I'm going to feat init page anecdotes. So initializing that page anecdotes page, because we know it's kind of in a stable place. This anecdote I'd like to further destructure if types won't get all mad at me. Yeah, it doesn't like the way it thinks I'm trying to actually produce like a value, which I think is technically correct. We'll let the compiler slide. No, the robot's almost always right. Okay, so here's anecdote. I just don't save anything, so I guess I'm not going to do it. We're just going to use this anecdote. So we're going to do like a H3. And that's going to be anecdote.name. Close the H3. Okay. This body text right here. Let me open my anecdote, Control P, anecdote JSON. And I want to get the, so the name, and then I will go and make each of these. So we're going to do, and let's do an ordered list, because it is following SOTAR order, right? So this will be a list item. I don't know why it's like overriding. Do I have like insert on or something? I don't know what's like killing my last tag. So here, this li will be situation. Then we'll do anecdote.situation. So situation, O, what was the O? Obstacle, right? Obstacle. Situation, anecdote.obstacle. SOTAR, task. Anecdote.task. SOTAR. The A was action. Anecdote.action. Result. Anecdote.result. Okay. Control S, it kind of collapsed down the formatting for me. Great stuff. Now we're showing all that. I don't want this to be like whatever kind of alignment that is. I want it left aligned. So we're going to say align left. No, it's text align left. Right? Text align left. All right, I'll be right there. So here's the anecdote card. This is CSS, not SAS, so I can't just nest it. So we're going to do, oh, but I can just do it right here. LMNOPQRST. Nope, I can't do that. So it's going to have to be a new rule. Anecdote card. List item under an ordered list. Cool. Even if it's an unordered list, I would still like it to have text left. So I'm going to take out the OL. And yeah, it doesn't have the date there, but you get the idea. I'm going to add a little spacing to the bottom of the app. So I can scroll down a little more. Cool. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So here we go. So this is the basic. Like I said, a lot of stuff we can do here. Make these accordions. That'd be nice. I think I'll do that. And yeah, the ability to edit and then upload and download that JSON file. The ability to make that JSON file a secret so that it's not uploaded to Git, so that you don't have to worry if you're worried about sensitive data. Me personally, if it's on my LinkedIn, it can be in my GitHub and I don't care, but I know that's not true for everybody. So this will be Feet Better Anecdote card. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.